She's a seasoned financial educator and consultant, a lover of dogs and roller coasters, and has a strong passion for helping young adults and small business owners take control of their money. I'm delighted to welcome and have a conversation with Tracey Bissett, President and Chief Fitness Financial Trainer of Bissett Financial Fitness, on Small Talk. I'm your host, Javed Khan. Tracey Bissett of Bissett Financial Fitness, my BFF. Welcome to Small Talk.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tracey, I'm very excited about this conversation that we're going to have. And particularly, it's about a topic area that I've been reading recently. And I find myself that there is certainly a gap, and be it in our country of Canada or wherever people are watching this show, this whole concept of financial literacy. And it's an interesting conversation I'd like to have with you today, Tracey, because you talk about, the younger generation. How young should we be having conversations around finances with? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. And sometimes people just hearing financial literacy think it's kind of a naughty word, a dirty word, something that they're embarrassed about. But really, it's about taking control of your own money and your financial situation. I think as early as you can start having conversations with children on the level that they can understand, you should do it about money. And so if it's just when you're playing with toys, oh, how much does that cost? Does it cost more than you got for your birthday from grandma or grandpa? If they're getting an allowance, what can you do with your allowance? Can you save it? Can you spend some? Can maybe you share it with others who don't have any money, or you want to donate it to a charity and help others? So as early as you can have those conversations, I think is the right time.
Now, from your perspective, Tracey, why is it that we are not having conversations at that age? Or even if, let me just go one step further. Why do you think it's not at this stage part of the curriculum, per se, in our schools at a younger age? I can understand, and I see, certainly at an older age. I even see it obviously in university and college days. But, in your case, because I agree with you 100%, it should literally start, I would say, right from kindergarten. And why is that?
Or earlier, yeah, absolutely. I would say that the school board is certainly in Ontario would say it is part of their curriculum, that it's embedded in math class. I don't think it's so overt that people are noticing. And certainly it's not creating that linkage of like a life skill. And to me, having financial acumen is a fundamental life skill. The success or failure of your life is going to depend on how well you can deal with your own finances. So the better off and earlier you are that you learn, the more successful you can be in whatever you want to do.
And for those folks who are watching the video portion or even listen to the podcast version, what are some of these exercises you just very briefly alluded to? What are some of these exercises or maybe even little games that people could be playing with either their sons or daughters or grandchildren, their nieces, nephews? What kind of games could you recommend that they start to do to start talking about and injecting some level of financial literacy?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. And part of the issue today is that everything is electronic. So you're doing things with cards. And so people are not seeing money as much as they used to. So one thing right off the bat you can do, you can play store. Even if you're starting and you're using Monopoly money, let's go around the store in our house and buy some things and see if you have enough money to buy them. I did a series of birthday parties for my friend's daughter at kind of ages 6, 7, and 8, and I made up some games for her, and she had a Pokemon store. So I had some cutouts of little Pokemon things they like to buy with different amounts, and each child was given a different amount of money. So if they wanted to buy one of the bigger things, they had to wait till they saved up a little bit more money, whereas some of the other kids were spending it as quick as they got it. And so children learn very quickly kind of their personality around money. Their views are formed probably before they're even going to school. So as early as you can start talking to them about it. The practice of making change. So you've got a 20, now this thing costs $4.25. How much do you give me back? And so they actually start handling money and holding the money. Also, when you're at the store, if you're paying with a card, tell them what kind of card it is. What does it do? How does it work? And obviously, depending on the age, you're going to give it a little bit more information if it's an older child versus younger.
And so that's an interesting point. You mentioned sort of ages. So from your perspective, so if I'm watching this show or listening to the podcast version, and I have certainly, if I have a younger group, you mentioned some of the games there, but what about those older groups? The grade 6s to the 9s, and then perhaps the 10s up to the 12s. How would that sort of the evolution of the game go from your perspective that you could perhaps suggest to the viewership?
Well, certainly between grade 6 and 8, you should be able to make a budget with them. You should be able to talk to them about what kinds of careers they want to have, and then do some research around how much would that person make. Okay, now that we know how much they make, how does that factor into your budget, and is it realistic? Where are you going to live? It's easy to go online and pull some classified ads. It's easy to make a shopping list by going online looking at flyers. And then as they get into the older grades and they're starting to prepare for college and university, let's figure out how much it's going to cost for you to go to school. If you live at home versus going away, what's the difference? And where are all the places that we could find the money to pay for it? And there's certainly lots of great websites out there, lots of information on scholarships, on loans, whether they be from a financial institution or government agency. And so certainly making it practical and realistic for them. One thing my parents did with me when I was a kid, which was really effective, is, oh, you want something that costs a little bit more. And I remember I really wanted a tennis racket. I was going to be a tennis star, and I just wanted to have that tennis racket. And it cost more than I had. And they said, well, okay, if you save up half, we'll give you the other half. So really testing my commitment. Did I really want that thing? And was I going to put in the months of saving, my allowance, my babysitting money, all that kind of stuff, to be able to get to that. So you'll know your own child and what will work for them. But I think just doling out funds whenever they need it, it's a pretty hard thing to do. And they're certainly not then getting the appreciation of how life is going to look outside the family nest. iPhones are a perfect example of that. You've got 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds thinking they're entitled to an iPhone, and they really have no clue how much that very expensive piece of computer costs.
Very interesting conversation here, folks. So Tracey Bissett, she runs an organization called Bissett Financial Fitness. Tracey, you also have a podcast show, and you can find them on any of the podcast catchers from iTunes to Google. The name of the show again, Tracey, was
Young Money with Tracey Bissett, the advice show for millionaires in the making. And it's geared towards 18 to 30-ish and people who love them, because I know there's a lot of parents and grandparents who tune in. And it's to show different paths to financial success. It provides different lessons and breaks down just some myths and mysteries that people may have about the financial sector. So it airs weekly on Tuesdays. So check out an episode.
Every Tuesday. So folks, you've had your contact information certainly on the screen. And if you're listening to the podcast version, her contact information's on the show descriptor. So please reach out to her. That's the whole idea of this Small Talk show, folks. As you know, it's to start the conversation and then to continue the conversation with our guest. Tracey, I've got a question, another one for you. If you had an opportunity to have a small talk conversation with anyone, living or past, who would it be?
Would be my grandmother, Jackie Bissett, who has since passed. She was an amazing woman with money, very modest means, and the stuff that she could do with the little resources she had to spread it for her family was amazing. I think she would get a kick out of my podcast, and I'd love to hear some tips from her and even interview her on the show if she was still around. So that would be my person.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Jackie Bissett. Wow, imagine if we had that conversation. That'd be amazing. Tracey, thank you so much for being here on Small Talk. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you to Tracey Bissett, President and Chief Financial Fitness Trainer of Bissett Financial Fitness, for joining me on Small Talk. You can also listen to the show as part of our podcast series. Now it's your turn. Please comment, subscribe, and share. If you've got a topic you'd like to discuss on the show, please give me a call or send me an email. We'll talk with you next time.